are you to tell me what to do? I don't give a damn if you say you disapprove. I'm gonna make my move, I'm gonna make it soon. And I'll do it cause it's what I wanna fucking do. Cause all these opinions and all these positions, they come in millions, they blocking your vision. But no, you can't listen, that shit is all fiction cause you hold the power.
Hi there. Maybe you have seen my video about the portfolio I call the best portfolio ever. As we have been experiencing a very volatile stock market, I would like to show how that so-called perfect portfolio has performed. Even though we have seen extraordinary ups and downs in the last 8 months, this portfolio has done, let's say okay. Let's start by looking at the composition of said portfolio. As it's supposed to be a no-touch portfolio, meaning I don't need to do anything but put in a certain amount in a specific time, I don't spend any time worrying about market volatility or if a CEO or any of the companies does something stupid. I just need to invest like clockwork and let the market work its magic. That's why my portfolio is comprised of only 4 ETFs. Lots of diversification, or maybe I should say diversified in the sense that it's mostly tech-oriented, with a twist of healthcare and a pinch of India. The exact mix is 60% in Vanguard's Information Technology ETF, ticker symbol VGT, 20% in iShares Semiconductor ETF, ticker SOXX, 10% in Vanguard's Healthcare ETF, ticker VHT, and 10% in India Small Cap ETF, ticker symbol SMIN. These 4 ETFs are chosen because of their high gains, at least for the VGT and SOX, and VHT because it covers the healthcare market. And India, I believe India is going to be the new China. I save up so I have enough to buy a little of them every time I buy, and I follow the schedule I laid out in the video about timing the market, as this has historically proven to be the best times to buy. So remember, watch that video next. If you want to know why I have chosen these exact ETFs, you'll have to see the video where I explain it. So, let's see how that portfolio has fared and if it's even possible to use it for high returns with a very low risk and volatility. I started the portfolio back in May 2024, and at the time I started with around $10,000. That's usually my initial amount for new investments these days. Usually it takes me around 3 to 4 months to accumulate that using my salary, but I also keep around a little extra in the piggy bank for just these new ideas. Instead of me using the calculator every time I invest, I actually use XAI's Grok. I simply ask it to give me the approximate amount I would need when I invest 10,000 with the before mentioned split in the 4 ETFs, taking transactional costs in consideration, and in 5 seconds I get the amount I need to use on each ETF. Soon my brokerage will have Grok AI as a built-in feature. That's gonna help a lot. Well, back in May 2024, when I started the portfolio, the 4 ETFs had these prices per share. VGT was around $535 per share, SOXX was around $234 per share, VHT was around $262 per share, and SMIN was around $75 per share. And with the percentages I had chosen, this gave around 11 shares of VGT, 9 shares of SOXX, 3 shares of VHT, and 16 shares of SMIN. The portfolio has now been doing its thing in a little over a year, and I usually buy every quarter as that's where I get my bonus from my day job. By that time I have around 5,000 extra to buy more shares. This fits almost perfectly with the optimum time to buy, well, at least according to statistics, as I described in my video about timing the market. And as I have 60% of VGT, which is tech, I follow the Nasdaq optimum purchase times. That is February, June, September and December. I know, I can't time the market, but I can choose the statistically best times and hope this will help me in the long run. Here is an overview of the purchases I did at the time of making this video. The portfolio is now at almost $37,000 and my contributions were around $32,000. This means the portfolio has gained around 13% in a little over a year. Well, that's kind of disappointing, but looking at it a little further, we can see that VGT does very well, and it's the rest that reduce my gains. VGT is the ETF giving me most of my gains with almost 20%, and the Health ETF and the India ETF, they are dragging me down. Especially VHT, Healthcare. That ETF has been a real downer in the last year. If someone is to blame for this, it must be all the rhetoric about the big pharma influence and the pricing, and the fact that the new administration is trying to hamper their gains, which I usually actually agree with. And in the long run, I believe that health ETFs will have a place in the portfolio. But I also must consider, what would the portfolio have been or could become without VHT and SMIN? If we remove those two from the portfolio would have been almost 2,000 higher and the gains would have been over 15%. And that's because VHT and SMIN are only 20% of the portfolio together, so they don't do a lot of damage. And we should instead be very happy about the incredible gains in such a short time and not much risk. So it's actually really good considering the stuff the markets have been through lately. And I usually step up my investments when markets react badly. Like back in the beginning of 2025, the S&P dropped 19% from February to April. But at that time I was busy adding to my dividend portfolio, so I really didn't have any additional funds for this portfolio. That is actually my biggest problem. I'm spreading my hard-earned cash over several portfolios, but I need to have some skin in the game for the portfolios I believe in. And remember, I'm already at a point where I really don't need to rely on any of these portfolios, as they are altogether only around 25% of my total investments. I have some real estate that really is the bulk of my investment, and I have my retirement accounts. And lately I'm beginning to spend a lot more than I used to, so I can create a lot of memories with my family and especially my children. They grow up so fast. But if I was new to investing and wanted a fairly certain return, then this portfolio could very well be the best performing of them all, without very much risk. But back to what has happened in little over a year. VGT started at 534.61 and it's around 694 right now, that's a 30%. SOXX 234, 249, 6% gains. 262, 256, minus 2. SMIN, minus 1. So what did it look like with my quarterly contribution? Then the gains are almost 4,000. Healthcare hasn't done well because JFK Jr. and Trump started their small war on Big Pharma. Why India is not doing better, I really don't know, but I'm gonna have to stay on it. Yes, SMIN has actually underperformed a lot, and together with the health ETF, it dragged the portfolio down. But remember, I have on purpose only 10% of allocation in each of them. So if we look at the portfolio including my contributions, the performance is pretty good. And the reason why I don't have the return of VGT's 30%, it's because I didn't buy all the stocks in the beginning, and unfortunately I can't time the market, so my buys have been both at the lows and also at some highs. You can see them at the graph here, represented by the dots. But in the long run, this will make the portfolio outperform most other portfolios. As I said, I believe in tech being the great driver of returns in the next 10 years. And with that in mind, maybe the portfolio should be either a pure VGT, or maybe a mix of VGT and VOO, which is the S&P 500. And then maybe a small part of the world using the Vanguard VT ETF, Well, let's look at that. Still the same 10,000 invested and 5,000 at the specific months I mentioned. The split could be 60% in VGT, 25% in VOO, and 15% VT. So now I have tech, the S&P 500, and the world. If we had done it that way, the portfolio would have been like this. VGT around 19% gains, almost $3,800. VOO a bit over 14%, a bit over $1,000. VT almost 15%, but only $733. Combined, that would have been a bit over $38,000 in the portfolio, where again the $32,000 were contributions. So the gains would have been $5,619, which would have been 17.28% gains in that short time frame. But hey, we can always find a better portfolio when we look back. The hard part is predicting which ones will do well in the future. But for me, the main component will always be VGT. So now we just need to focus on the diversification part and how much that should be in a percentage of the portfolio. But what do you think? Do you have any great ETFs we could use for that extra security and still having around 14 to 15% gains every year? One thing is given. If you hit the like button, I would very much appreciate it, and if you even subscribe, that would make me ecstatic. On that note, I'll end the video, and remember, the best investment you can do is in you. The more you learn, the more you earn. Bye!
I have a dream, that's all I need. I'll make it happen with some work and belief. Know what I want, so I'll take it on. I've made mistakes, but mistakes make you strong. Let's break it down for a minute. I want the crown, I'm gon' get it. You hear me loud, man, I'm winning. Yeah, Charlie Sheen will be grinning. These ladies know that I'm sinning, and this is just the beginning. I'm closing in the ninth inning, there ain't no point in resisting.